when men think sex, they think hot, passionate, explosive, spontaneous. When we hear the word safe, we think warm, soft, cuddly. Those must be the most detumescent words in the English language. So, when men hear safe sex, what they hear is stop having sex like men. And here I think straight men bump up against their homophobia, because this is exactly the way that the gay community has responded to the HIV crisis for the past 20 years, which has been to say, how can we make safe sex sexy? How can we eroticize responsibility? How can we bring safety into sexual decision making? And if you think about it this way, this is exactly what heterosexual women have been trying to say to heterosexual men all along. Because the difference between male and female sexuality in the United States today is not that men feel sexually entitled and women don't. Remember earlier, I made the argument that women feel just as entitled to pleasure. The difference between women and men's sexuality is that men see safety as the negation of sexiness, and women see safety as its precondition. Unless a woman feels safe, unless a woman is certain that no means no, that her bodily integrity is as important as his, that her boundaries are as important as his, that no means no, unless she knows that, she can't get to that part of her that says, here's what I want. Here's my sexual voice. Here's my sexual agency. So if you think about it this way, this should be a no-brainer for men. Because if we want to have relationships with women who are as hot and as passionate and as sexy as we think we are, I know it's a stretch. Just go with that. The only way we're going to be able to do that is to support women's efforts to end date acquaintance rates. Because as long as women are afraid on this campus to go to a party, go out on a date, work late in the library, work late in the chemistry lab, park in a parking lot that's far away from a building, as long as women are afraid, they can't get to that part of themselves that says, here's what I want. Their sexual voice is limited, is minimized. And here I think we need to start thinking about how to bring men into the conversation on campus about sexual assault. Because typically, now I'm sure you may do it differently here, but typically the way we do sexual assault awareness on college campuses is we target the women. We do everything for the women, all the programs for the women. We basically say, okay, here's what we do, what they do sometimes at Stony Brook. They say, okay, women, you can go to these parties, you can't go to these parties. You can wear these sorts of things, you can't wear these things. If you go to these parties, make sure you go with another woman, right? Never lose eye contact, taste each other's drinks. And by the way, don't walk out of here, don't stop doing this. Of course, you must continue to police your and other women's behaviors to reduce your individual risk of sexual assault, right? But think for a second about what this implies about men. What this implies about men is that unless you keep policing yourself and others, we men are out-of-control animals and we will be all over you. I think we can do better than that. I think we need to bring men into this conversation. So I have a project for you. I brought a little sample of how you might consider doing this. This is something that I've been bringing around to some college campuses. I'm going to show you the one from Ohio State, so it's red. But I can just imagine this in tiger orange and black. Guys, you know what this is? What is it? Yeah, the urinal thing. That's its technical name. The urinal thing. Don't worry, it's a new one. It actually has a technical plumbing supply term named, and it's called a splash guard. Nice, huh? You like it better as the urinal thing. All right. But here's what you would see if used as directed. You would see the following. You hold the power to stop rape in your hand. I'll just let that sink in. Because here's the missing piece in the conversation that we have in this country about sexual assault. Men's choices. The choices that men make about what we do with our bodies. We could end rate in this country tonight if men made different choices about what we do. Right? So that part, men's agency, men's choices, needs to be incorporated, I believe, into the conversation about sexual assault. Not just women policing themselves, which you must continue to do, but also that other part, which is about the choices that men make. Now, I've made an argument to you tonight that if you think about it this way, that gender equality is not a zero-sum game. That when women win, men will lose. But in fact, if we take men at their word, that gender equality is the only way we will be able to have the kind of relationships with our friends, with our partners, with our wives, with our children that we say we want to have. The only way. So I would like then to close with just one phrase, with just one sentence. One of the books that Jacob mentioned in his kind introduction, I did this book a few years ago called Against the Tide, and it was a documentary history of men who had supported feminism in American history, right? All the documents I could find, so you're thinking to yourself, the world's shortest book. And actually, it's the fattest book I ever did, and because I found thousands of documents by men who supported gender equality. And in one of those documents, I just want to quote to you one line from one of those documents, written in 1916 by a writer in New York City on the eve of one of those great suffrage demonstrations, you know, the big suffrage demonstrations down Fifth Avenue with all the banners. He was one of the men who was one of the founders of the Men's League for Women's Suffrage, which was a group of men who supported women's suffrage. And he wrote an article in a magazine in 1916 called Feminism for Men. And this was the first line of that article. He said, "Feminism will make it possible for the first time for men to be free." Thank you. I think there's two parts of this of my answer to this. The question about equality in our society, and you know, I'm going to sort of do this. I'm going to answer this both in terms of in theory and in practice. In theory, when we talk about equality, we always talk about it in terms of sameness, right? So one of the ways in which we discredited socialism is we said if everyone was economically equal, we would all be the same. And if you remember, you know, if you've ever seen any of those like ads about what Russia was like in the 1950s, everybody was exactly the same. They were all robotic, and you know, so we always think that class-based equality would make everyone the same. The same is true about gender equality. That if we were equal, we would become the same. Difference from lock on has always been the justification for inequality. You have more talent, more motivation, better discipline, etc. than I do, you should end up with more. Difference is basically the foundation, the basis for inequality. I think the task for us today is to try and this sort of uncouple equality from sameness. Start from difference and get to equality.